Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Joseph Chakopo from Yamuka Africa Solutions, and so excited to have you here today. And this is the Zambia Innovation Week, and we are so excited to be joined by James all the way from the International Trade Center, and he will be running us through a beautiful presentation today, which obviously is quite relevant, more so that many of us did witness and lived in the times and days of COVID-19, where we then got to work remotely, experience the benefits of digital trade, e-commerce, and so on and so forth. So again, thanks a lot. And we do have James today, who's going to be running us through a quick Fireside Chat themed getting ahead through e-commerce. James, good afternoon to you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you, Joseph. Thank you for the introduction. Sorry I can't be there with you this week. We should have at least one and maybe more colleagues there with you in Lusaka. So I've had the privilege over the years of coming to Lusaka a number of times. It's a place I appreciate, that we all appreciate. We like the spirit that we find in Lusaka of a well-educated, courteous, organized, business sector, that we find a lot of positive things. We find a lot of dynamism in Zambia. Certainly the last few years that we've been working in and around the digital sector. So what I wanted to speak to you about was the work that we're doing in digital trade, e-commerce in particular, but under a banner that we called one of our major strategies, the digital moonshots. Now, my colleague, Rob Skidmore, who talked to you separately, can say more about that, about the strategic environment for the digital moonshot. But I'm just going to give an explanation about that, why that is important, briefly. Where are we coming from as a UN organization? Perhaps I should say a little word about that, and you can find out more about ITC, the International Trade Center, if you don't know, by Googling us. We have done quite a lot of work in Zambia over the years in different sectors. Not only in this area of digital, but, as I say, we're a UN institution that's also linked to the WTO. So our business is trade. And we believe trade is and should be a power for good. But there are a number of things that mean that small companies, and indeed those in least developed countries, are not able to use trade as beneficially as they could. And that, in simple terms, is what ITC is about. How can you use trade to support development goals? And more jobs, better jobs, better livelihoods, and pay for a lot of the other positive things that we want to see. Now, when we started to think about this as an organization, we realized that there's a lot going on in the area of digital trade. That we ourselves have been using digital for a long time. As an agency, we have a major commitment to providing information and analysis systems. But as Joseph reminded us about COVID, something real happened a few years ago, that this became super important, even for micro enterprises, to be online and be trading. And we see that something over a third of the world is not online, and yet it's critical. There's a lot that's changing. You will have heard things like the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement and the Digital Trade Protocol in that. There are other international agreements. There's a lot happening, groups supporting what's happening. And in some respects, the complexity of this international legal and policy environment getting, at least at first view, more complicated, overlapping things. Like there's a new thing going to be launched next week, which is the Global Digital Compact. Each of which solves some issues about digital. But anyway, at first view, it can look complicated, and certainly some of the smaller or least developed countries struggle to find their place in that, given the topic's importance. So how do we do more digital? How do we get our small firms trading? Small firms themselves in many of these markets are not as connected as they should be, but they want to be. And we know, and there's many reasons making the situation worse. Digital connectivity is not widely used, not widely understood. The supporting environment is not right in terms of the right kinds of services at the right kinds of prices. The favorite topic, access to finance, is always a difficult area for entrepreneurs, being able to find finance, being able to afford that finance, capabilities themselves, and more widely, the capabilities of employees. So, I mean, we have been doing a series of consultations. We've been working with a university in Lusaka to look at the tech innovation environment. And my colleague, Michelle, will be speaking to you some more about the work that we've been doing in the tech entrepreneurship side and working with the Ministry of Science and Technology and ZICTA to map the different business support organizations, hubs, and so on. So this was really, going back a couple of years, work that had already been going on. Understanding that this was important, we wanted to do something about it. We decided to bring some extra focus on Zambia. A number of things were changing, new government, very committed to digital, and a country that, as I say, is forward-looking, and some early stage work in some successful companies starting to form marketplaces, service providers. And we thought we could do something more by the different teams in ITC working together. We did this consultation workshop back just a couple of years ago. We identified different areas which we thought we could focus on and provide some support. Now, I won't go into all of those today because it's not really the topic, the big strategic thing, but suffice it to say that this was a reflection of our priorities that we want to develop as an agency, show what we can do. And so we started doing work in Zambia in different, connected areas. And we set ourselves some goals. We wanted to use Zambia as an opportunity for our teams to work together and develop an integrated model where we said, part of this is understanding what government can do and what policies are coming from the outside, as well as the policies such as the national e-commerce strategy that were being developed. BSOs, that's our jargon, that means business support organizations. Those are things like the chambers or whatever. What are they doing? So how does that work? Once you've got the policy, what does the support environment look like? And how can we support that to cover these goals? Looking at the policies themselves and how well they are working in the national environment and how well they translate into benefits for MSMEs. And then a couple of wellness points, 4 and 5, is looking at the tech environment, what's going on, how we can support that. And finally, MSMEs and entrepreneurs are able to trade digitally. So do they have the competencies? Do they have the tools? Do they have access to partnerships? So these were goals, these were areas we wanted to work on. And we recognized that we were going to do this at various layers. We were going to talk to these business support organizations. We were going to try and manage an improvement, publish some research, conduct some policy investigations, and we were going to help support those hubs in Zambia with improving their services, improving their partnership relations. We were going to help small businesses improve their skills. We recognize that any of this we can't do alone. We can't just come from the outside and deliver wisdom without some local partners. And there we had to think about the connectivity providers, what was going on in making connectivity available, some local organizations such as the university that we did the research scoping paper with, talking to marketplace platforms, local payments providers, local financing, local logistics companies, and this kind of thing. So this was our map for what we're going to do, and we've been doing some proofs of concepts in that area with the goal of having a bigger program, what we saw in, you know, a mission following some of that initial round of work was to try and attract some donors, some funding into this to make the program and support bigger, and we had some consultation about that. And we focused in on setting up a digital, what we called a digital trade hub. A part of that would be about training, and I'll explain that in a moment. What that, and that's really, I'll explain the e-commerce work that we're doing a little bit more. Some consultations about in the policy environment, and some work supporting the business support organizations. So I'll you know, follow through. This is the first area that we're trying to do to have a more integrated approach. So here's an example of some work that we did earlier this summer, is working with Zikta, who's been, you know, our primary contact, to teach some of these business support organizations what are the implications of digital trade, what are the implications of e-commerce, what kind of tools and techniques that they need in order to support more of the small companies. How can they design those services? How can they improve their knowledge about what's going on, and how they can themselves form a better network of support? So that was quite a well-received you know, program, quite long, intense program, a lot of material on that earlier this year, something that we look to build on as we have further rounds of support in Zambia. So let me just mention some of the policy work, looking at advisory on platform regulation. There's been a series of consultations. This is one of them that we mentioned here in March with the Ministry of Commerce, looking at various levels of policy, including under the AFCFTA, and a specific topic that was asked for, looking at postal and courier services in particular, the relevance being to get e-commerce really going, and there needs to be an improvement in addressing, you know, the availability of addressing and agency courier services in Zambia. So we at this level, let me get onto the topic of e-commerce, because, you know, that's particularly my group's contribution to this area. We started with a workshop 22 after that initial consultation, and we had a group that we took through our learning on the key skills that you need to be successful, starting from analytical understanding of what's happening, what products are available, what prices are available, understanding of your costs, developing digital channels. So that was work that we offered as a bit of a preliminary, and we also kicked off work where we shared these devices that you can see in orange in a number of places that offered downloadable training videos on a number of topics. In general, the NGO partner that we were working with on this has some things which are not strictly e-commerce related. They're things about health and so on. But in there as well, there's topics on how to sell digitally, made for an entry-level audience, skills related to social media. So our goal with this is to look for different audience. This one being through the orange boxes here, which is so-called stream spots, was to allow on relatively simple, basic level smartphones to download videos, download educational videos, but content on there, how to make money online through selling online, what works and what doesn't. So really entry level sort of stuff. And you can see some of this, you know, this was what, you know, we had a series of field testing with this in Zambia to show that there was some uptake of this. A particular testimonial here is a guy running a small shop and a mobile money shop, and he's able to tell us that customers were quite interested in using this station. So in addition to this so-called bottom, right, so this is really basic access, we wanted to offer more in-depth support. So this is this idea of these digital trade hubs, which I mentioned briefly at the beginning. We have some online materials available. So part of this is self-learning, is materials that the small business can log on to, access the lessons, and complete small exercises. But we think it's also very valuable to have face-to-face meetings. I think Joseph reminded us about being online, and here I am on video with you. But there are limits to what you can do with that. And I think we all learn that more and more. We're very ambitious with what we thought we could achieve with training online, but there are limits. I think these small businesses need to come together. They need to be in groups. They need to see a trainer at certain moments. So this is what we do through these hubs. They can come in if they've not got their own digital connection. They can come in. They can log on. They can do the exercises. They can also meet a trainer. Sometimes it's sort of classroom environment, or more like in small groups, and work together. But we did think there was something beyond what I showed you with the orange boxes, the stream spots, and these are just like entry level, awareness raising. There was also something just beyond that where there could be an entry level, having raised that awareness or interest, there could be some supporting level that small businesses could do. And this is what we've got here, developing this year. And right at this moment, we're piloting some training on social commerce for the sort of those graduating from awareness to wanting to do sales online. We have a training course that we're piloting in Lusaka, we're talking about developing various partnerships in Zambia to support this with Absa Bank, who's been our partner in Livingstone, with WIAC, which is an NGO which is focused on women's educational areas, but also more generally, and we've worked with them in different contexts. My colleague Michelle can explain a bit more about that from the grassroots innovation side with Bongo Hive, who's quite a well-known player, certainly in the tech sector and digital training. Offline Flix is the company behind the orange boxes and doing some training, and also other service providers that we've had many exchanges with. One that comes to mind is like Afri Delivery, which has been involved in the coaching and accompaniment of some of these entrepreneurs. So that's provided us, some capability. This is the thing. This is a little screenshot of the welcome page to these the digital training environment, which we have. By the way, we mentioned we've got in Zambia in English. We did a lot of the videos and filming of this in Zambia. So there's a Zambian journalist and TV presenter who's helped us present some of the training modules behind this. So that's offered at the moment through the program in Livingstone, where we have an initial batch of 42 SMEs on this. There's just one coach out there. We have a number of others beyond that who are attending classroom sessions on e-commerce. There are a number who are going through this first, who have gone through the course. I'll explain the course in a moment, what it consists of. And they have the opportunity to come in and work in premises which are owned by Absa Bank. So in the center of Livingstone, there's an Absa Bank, and above it, there's this hub, which has a kind of drop-in facility that the entrepreneurs can come in and just work there, access their lessons. And at other times, there are networking sessions and classes like I was talking about. Now, we want to make this available also in Lusaka, and there we're kicking off a very similar process based on that learning, but run in Lusaka with WIAC. There are something like 83 companies currently involved, and there'll be 3 coaches. Again, it's not all online classroom sessions with the coaching network. So what does that involve? I've talked a lot about this, but what are the elements in that? Really, over a number of years, we've sort of been perfecting our training and understanding of this. We think that there are 3 broad blocks of learning, and these are like essential to go through to have some success. We find that there's many mistakes that small businesses make to jumping in online and just selling. Sometimes with a bit of digital understanding, you can get online in a platform and list your products, take some photos of them, and the temptation is to try and start selling immediately. In fact, some of those marketplaces give you that impression that that's what you can do. And that's a good thing. They're making it more and more easy to get online and be present, but it has a number of traps to make it that apparently easy, because you can be online with the wrong kind of goods described in the wrong kind of way at the wrong kind of price, and you can find that you make a mistake in doing that. It's very easy to damage your reputation online by getting things wrong. You can build that wrong reputation, and it's bad for everybody. And when the customer tries to buy things off you, they're not the same as what you've described, or you're not capable of delivering them, or other kinds of mistakes. You find that it's just not profitable to do that. You start having to pay the shipping, or you start having to pay fees for a payment solution, and realize that for all the hassle that you're undergoing, you don't make much money at all. So some people are lucky jumping in online and doing this, but we think that there's a structured way of doing this that helps success. And that's starting from strategy. Now, that sometimes that puts small entrepreneurs off. They don't want to do strategy. They want to get on and do things. But it's worthwhile thinking about things like knowing the niche, knowing the market, who are you selling to, what do they want, what motivates them. And this sound, a few years ago, this sounded quite advanced, but it's no longer so advanced. It's what even small entrepreneurs have to think about, having a brand. The brand is quite close to your reputation, as many of you know. Who are you? Why should somebody buy off you? This becomes very important online because people are not meeting you. The African way has always been this important, meeting people physically. Confidence has always been established face to face. So digital is something quite new in the culture of not, being able to touch and feel the product and being able to see the person. So sometimes that barrier can be quite strong. So this idea of branding, building a story, defining a position is peculiarly important. It always was, but now it becomes very important in the digital world. So finding the right sales channel, sometimes that can be as simple as WhatsApp. There's many African entrepreneurs who are using WhatsApp very successfully, and it's one that people understand intuitively. But there are tips and tricks for that as well. And there are tips and tricks why you might want to use Google or Facebook or any other, or even TikTok, or different kinds of platforms. Some of the sales channels I mentioned, Afri Delivery, which imposes another level of standard on you if you want to sell in those marketplaces, or even internationally. I mean, we talk about things like Etsy, which is specialist in craft market. eBay, which has been, one of the early marketplaces, has a very strong, component with small sellers. And, even the famous Alibaba, who different kind of channel, different kind of market, all have. And it depends what's right for the individual business and what you're trying to do. So we cover those areas, we cover understanding that, we cover basically building a plan, and we do all of that. Sometimes that's hard. Sometimes the entrepreneurs find that hard going through, because as I say, when you're an entrepreneur, very often the reflex is just to get on and start selling and see how it goes. And we try to cover those areas in this. Before we go on, a very important area that deserves a block of its own, about configuring your channel. Fancy words, configuring. That can be taking the right kind of photos. That can be taking enough photos in the right way, with the right kind of lighting, the right kinds of descriptions, how to be, how to set up what you're trying to sell. So be thinking about payments, be thinking about logistics, be thinking about how you have the right application together to open an online store. So that's something that we would do in the second module. These are all online modules with distinct learning that we've developed, supported by in-class activity at the moment, as I say, to make that clear, both in Livingston and Lusaka is what we do. Now, and then the final thing, the one that sometimes we want to jump to, is activating that, is getting on and doing it. But we think also there's some skills to look at about understanding the measures, the indicators that are coming out of your store, doing a promotional strategy, which may be the area of like keywording, optimizing channels. That means making, upgrading the content, seeing what works. So those are things like SEO, that's a search engine optimization. That's if you are making yourself visible to things like Google. And one that, again, the simplicity of it confuses people is email marketing. Now, there's a skill too that's about using email, and we sort of cover that importantly. And then there's some more advanced topics that we can cover. So that's broadly, what we do, and those are the things broadly we recommend that people follow and understand. Just a quick mention of this entry-level option. So that was the more sort of in-depth. It requires, quite a few hours of dedication, work, and support. We also wanted to work, and here's we're working with our colleagues and friends Bongo Hive on the innovation of a entry-level, social media selling. For those who don't have the time or don't have the ambition to build an e-commerce business, properly speaking, it's a series of modules that we're in the process of running right now on how to sell on social media. And leveraging tools which now become available, like AI tools like ChatGPT, and the work that's available, the possibilities in a design tool called Canva to support you doing this. And as far as possible, the free modules in that you don't necessarily have to start paying for immediately. And this is work that we're driving through. So that completes my sort of overview of the work that we're doing in the e-commerce area in Zambia. I should make a mention of a few of the partners. I mentioned a couple there, like ABSA and Bongo Hive. I mentioned the ministries that we're working with, and indeed Zikta and our friends at ZDA. But we are supported in this. I mentioned our food delivery, Mercury, DHL, and some of the others that you see there are involved in different ways. It can be in some of the transport options that we're presenting through the hub to set up the stores. And it can just be in terms of coaching, which is very valuable, of how to use those services, how to get the best out of them. And so on. So there you go. It's not possible without support of partners. It's not possible without commitment of the small companies to be doing this. So this is a little bit of an overview of the work that we're doing on e-commerce. As I say, I've touched in this, the work that we're doing at a higher level on policy with BSOs. My colleague will talk about the entrepreneurship, particularly tech entrepreneurship work that we're doing. And the logic behind all of this is to, they say light a fire, is to take some of the fuel which is there, is this enthusiasm, some of the excellent companies which are appearing in Zambia, and to try and make it, to blow some oxygen on it and get the fire really going of digital commerce. And that includes more people, not just the obvious skilled entrepreneurs in the country, but those who may only have an initial awareness of the tools. Our term, we would like this to be bigger. We would like this to be reaching out to areas beyond the major cities, like Lusaka. Our term, we would like this to have more support in terms of better connectivity for those who are not connected, and more logistic support to get this going. But it's all going in the right direction. There is positive developments across the board at those different layers, and we're both happy and proud